and we will mostly be talking about the new topics, the new requirements that has been introduced in the new code, and go a bit into more details on them, and compare them to IECC 2015 and see what we're looking ahead, how we're looking ahead when this code gets adapted in more and more territories. So the first I'm going to give you a brief review of what are the new interesting topics that we're going to talk about, and then we're going to take a deeper dive into each and every one of them. The new code has introduced two new compliance methods that are both equally acceptable, which was not there before. In IECC 2015 and the older versions, we really just have one method, which is now called occupant sensor controls, which is the way that most of us are used to, which is you have a sensor, power pack, etc., and control the light. And then there's a new method called luminaire level lighting controls, which we go into more details later on. There are some new requirements for open office areas in terms of zone control and zoning. Some new requirements have been introduced for warehouses and controls requirements for the warehouses. New updates to daylight responsive controls and requirements for that. And there is a little topic that we'll get into much more detail about it and where and when it's required, called enhanced digital lighting controls. As you can see, I'll put an optional in front of it because it's really something that once we get into it may come up not that often. So without further ado, I'm just gonna dive into the main topic. The main compliance method that has always been the case and is still mentioned in the code is called occupant sensor controls. The main change to this requirement, or any kind of lighting control requirements in the new code, is that the time delay for the lights to turn off has been reduced from 30 minutes to 20 minutes across the board. So regardless of your application, your compliance method, or any way, shape, or form that you are going to provide some lighting controls, the maximum allowed time delay for an occupant sensor to turn off the lights after all occupants have left the space is 20 minutes now. Then the other two requirements have stayed the same, which is, well, in the areas that fall under this requirement, like classrooms, conference halls, offices, etc., occupant sensors shall be manual on or controlled to automatically turn on lighting to not more than 50% power. So this is quite straightforward, same as before, nothing new here. And then there shall be a manual control to allow occupants to turn off the lights. Again, this was part of the the requirement before as well, and nothing new has been introduced here as well. So really the main thing in this section is that the time delay has been reduced from 30 to 20 minutes. Now I will show you like the two methods that you can comply with this requirement as just a very simple example with Steinel. So in this case, we are looking at a little meeting room, conference room. So you have two ways to meet the requirements with to comply with the code requirements here. with Steinel products. One is using dual-tech DT Quattro DIM-24 ceiling mount sensor with a power pack and a momentary switch, and the other method would be using a DT 0 to 10 volt wall switch. So thanks to our updated firmware for the DIM-24 series in our Control Pro ceiling and corner mount sensors, now you can set them to partial on or force off depending on the requirement through the smart remote, which we will go into more details about later on. And our 0 to 10 volt dimming wall switches are set to partial on right out of the box. So you really don't have to do much with those to meet the code requirements. Obviously, simpler product, easier setup. So let's just, because we are going to come back a bit more on these requirements later, jump ahead and go to the new topic that has been introduced in the code, and explain it and just give a few observations about it. Just to reiterate, code has given us now two methods of compliance and has not given any preference to either. So really going with the luminaire level, the new method introduced, which is luminaire level lighting control, is really an optional thing. There is no part of the code that even gives the slightest preference. Even to my interpretation, the amount of detail that the code has gone into for the occupant sensor control compliance method shows that they have more emphasis on that method rather than using the luminaire level lighting control. So luminaire level lighting controls requires some form of occupancy sensors mounted in each luminaire. Now this fixture mount control should have should meet the following three requirements. It should be able to monitor occupant activity to brighten or dim lighting when the area in its coverage is occupied or unoccupied. Monitor ambient light, both electric and daylight, and brighten or dim artificial light to maintain the desired light level. And for each control strategy, configuration and reconfiguration and each fixture and control device, for each of them you should be able to program and reconfigure them, their bright dim set points, timeouts, dimming fade rate, sensor sensitivity, and wireless zoning configurations. That's pretty much all that the code tells us about this new requirement called LLLC. So this it's a bit vague right now. I'm hoping they would release some form of addendum or something to expand more on this later, but right now it's just very vague and hasn't gone into much detail, not here and not in the rest of the sections of the code. There are three observations that we have to make about this kind of requirement that has been introduced. The first one, which is quite important, commissioning time is very volatile. So the more complicated you make the system, the commissioning time may become more and more. And as we all know, time is money. So from my experience with a couple of projects that I did abroad with dolly control, it was very time consuming to program each and every individual fixture, even in a small setting. The other point is, well, to maintain a certain price range for the fixtures that have some sort of controls mounted on them, you're limited to the use of basic sensors with very poor coverage. You can't have a very sophisticated sensor on each and every fixture that you're selling, because then it could obviously drive the price of the fixture. And with the code and the trend and the market moving towards more integration between lighting controls and HVAC and IoT, Internet of Things, everyone is looking more for data much more than just occupancy, vacancy, that binary 0 or 1. Your HVAC really can't give you a very good answer if you're just saying, well, we have someone there or there's no one there. Your HVAC would give you a perfect, would give you an optimized result when you tell how many people are in the room, what is the air quality, what is the humidity level in the room. Rather than just saying, well, there's at least one person in the room. The other thing that comes up with this LLC solution is that, well, the use of proprietary communication protocols, and we all know the headaches that come with that.
Gloria, we do have a clarification question that was emailed about the optional nature. Okay. I'm sure that's optional. Someone thought that it maybe was not optional, but required.
Well, just to quote the code, so section C405.2, lighting systems shall be provided with controls that comply with one of the following. Number 1, lighting controls as specified in sections such through such, which is occupant controls, sensor controls, and then the more details about open office and the rest of the areas. And then number 2, luminaire level lighting controls, LLC, and lighting controls as is specified in sections such and such. So really the code has not given any sort of preference to LLC, and you really have the option of going either way. And considering the observations we made about LLC and the fact that it just has been introduced, so I don't know how things would unfold in the future, but right now it's a simple or there is no preference for it, at least as per the code. Of course, every project is different. The new thing that has been introduced in the code, which is quite interesting, and it's quite applicable to a lot of the projects that come our way, is the new requirements for open office areas. So before, there was no distinction between different size of open office areas. So you could have basically the same rule applied to an office area of under 300 square feet to any size, really. So the new code requires has some new requirements for any kind of any open office area that is larger than 300 square feet. So under 300 square feet, you go back to the default compliance requirements, which is 20-minute timeout after occupants have left, partial on or manual on, and an override switch. Then again, since 300 square feet is quite a small area, you probably won't have any daylight harvesting or a daylighting zone or anything like that. The simple requirements would suffice. Now, as per the new code, any office space larger than 300 square feet should be divided into zones of not larger than 600 square feet. Again, the code does not specify how you want to create these zones. It's just that you can have zones with an area more than 600 square feet. There might be some confusion for the area between 300 and 600 square feet. So like what if we have an office of open office area of 500 square feet? Well, that can be just treated as one zone, or if you want, you can split it into as many zones as you want. The code just says no zones larger than 600 square feet. So minimum one zone and the maximum of how you like it available. The other two requirements that are mentioned for an open office area that kind of go hand in hand. One says that all the lights should be turned off in all zones within 20 minutes after all occupants have left the open office space. And then the other one says lights shall be reduced by not less than 80% in each zone within 20 minutes of all occupants leaving each zone. So what does this mean in terms of your control strategy? So the second one, to explain the second one first, each zone should be dimmed or turned off, should be dimmed to 20% or less power, or be completely turned off within 20 minutes of all occupants leaving that zone. And then all the lights in all the zones shall only be turned off within 20 minutes after all of the zones are vacated. So you can dim down or turn off completely each individual zone once it's vacated, but you can only turn off all of the zones when everyone has left all of the zone, like there is no one in the whole open office area. So this is really the main part of this new requirement. And then there is a little bit of clarification, you can say, about daylight responsive controls in this open office areas. That daylight responsive control shall only be activated only when occupancy for the same zone is detected. So not only we are dividing up the office into separate zones, the daylighting zones are going to be split and confined within that zone as well. We'll see that better in the next slide on a layout that I have prepared for us. So as you can see, we have the same office area at the top, office space at the top and at the bottom here. At the top, I have shown how you can meet the code as per IECC 2015 in the same area compared to the bottom layout, which shows the same office as per IECC 2018. So as per IECC 2015, for such an area, you have to put enough sensors to provide enough coverage. So as you can see, I have used 3 US Quattro DIM-24 sensors, single power pack to just control all of the lights all together. And for the sake of simplicity, I have not added any daylighting zone or daylight responsive controls to this, but I will explain it once we get to the IECC 2018 part. As per IECC 2018, the same area, assuming that it's larger than 300 square feet, needs to be divided to zones of not less than 600 square feet. So I've just split that area into 3 zones. And now each zone needs its own sensor and power pack. Whereas before, you just needed one power pack to control the whole office area. And if we assume that, like previously, you had one daylighting zone with daylight responsive control all the way across the top for the whole area, now that also needs to be split into 3, which means each of those zones will have 2 sensors, 2 power packs, and override switches to meet the new code requirements. So as a Steinel, we have really 2 solutions, 2 recommended solutions for open office area. The first solution is using US Quattro DIM-24, especially with the upgrade to the firmware that allows us to meet all the code requirements in terms of dimming and daylight responsive controls and all that. This would be a perfect case if you have an open office space with partitions or cubicle form or something like that. And if you have an office with a ceiling height of 12 feet or more than 12 feet, or you have ceiling fans in that office, well, in those cases, the US Quattro, an ultrasonic sensor or a dual-tech sensor will not work properly. So you're better off using your IR Quattro HD DIM-24 in this situation. So how to adapt these sensors to only detect within their own respective zones? With our US and dual-tech sensors, or ultrasonic and dual-tech sensors, we have a dial on the back, or you can adjust this, that the reach of the ultrasonic through the app on the smart remote to make sure that each sensor is only looking with its own zone and it's not looking across the zone borders. And with our IR Quattro HD, we have the mechanical scalability option in the sensor that we can use to crop the detection coverage exactly to the size of the detection zone based on mounting height and the zone size. So we have 2 very good solutions here, give you the flexibility depending on your office type, and either solution meets the codes pretty easily. Next topic that we are going to discuss is the new requirements introduced for the warehouse areas. IECC 2018 has mentioned that whether in all areas in a warehouse, open areas and aisles, lighting controls shall reduce the lighting but by not less than 50% when any areas are unoccupied. So in not legal terms and simple English terms, you can, when an area is not occupied, you can turn the lights all the way down to 0 or turn them off, or just reduce them to less than 50%. And the other requirement they have introduced is that each aisleway shall be controlled independent of the other aisleways or the open areas, which means the lights in an aisleway that should only turn on when you enter that aisleway. And we have a great tool for it. As you can see, the lens cover LC1 at the bottom left of the screen, which mounts very easily on our HBS 200 aisleway high bay sensors, that you can use it as an aisle starter depending on the direction that you mount it on. It can see, you can kind of enclose the coverage to the aisleway area. Here you can see our solution an example of it that we have the HPS 200 with an LC1 sensor cover at each end of these aisle, and then we have the normal HPS 200 in the middle to provide coverage, in the middle for both ends of the aisle. And in case you want to, have that some sort of digital lighting control network or something like that in your warehouse, then we have addressable high bay sensors available that we can use in solutions with our third-party partners, which you can get in touch with us about the details of how that partnership works and how you can have access to that kind of solution.
Poria, we do have a question about the warehouse requirements. Do the new high bay requirements have timeouts just like an office space? Like after 20 minutes, the lights have to dim to a certain percentage?
Yes. The new time delay, applies to everyone across the board. There is no exception. There is no special application for that. All lights that are on occupancy control shall be turned off within 20 minutes of all occupants leaving this space. Now, the next topic we want to talk about is the new requirements of daylight responsive controls. As you can see, there is a nice little video that I found that really nicely depicts how daylight responsive controls work. So these new daylight responsive controls, they haven't changed. They have introduced a couple of new topics that are quite interesting. So the first one is that lights in top lit zones shall be controlled independently of lights in side lit zones. I don't know about anyone on this call, but I haven't run into that many of such applications anyway. So I guess they were just trying to cover all the bases. The next 2 points really apply to us here. They say any calibration of the configurations shall be possible from within that space. Calibration mechanisms shall be in a location with ready access. So I will go into more details of this on the next slide when I'm talking about the smart remote, but just a heads up is that we can easily comply with this requirement. Again, the next 2 points also go kind of hand in hand. Controls in offices, classrooms, etc. shall dim lights continuously from full power down to 15% or lower. And controls shall be configured to completely shut off all control lights. What this means is, as you can see in this little video here, the lights shall be dimmed from 15% to 100% depending on the amount of light that's coming through the fenestration. And the new topic that has been added, which is the lights should be turned off in case the light from outside is exceeding the light level threshold. So you won't have a case that you have 75-25 anymore if that the light level has gone beyond the settings. It would be 100-0. And the last point that has been introduced is that the lights in side lit zones facing different cardinal cardinal coordination shall be controlled independently of each other. So you have to split a north and east or west facing daylight zone from the other one. You can't just have your daylight zone bend across the core. Now, we're going to talk about our smart remote. As most of you probably know, we have a smart remote that allows us programming our control pro series sensors as well as our 0 to 10 volt dimming wall switches through a simple app on your smartphone device, which communicates to smart remote via Bluetooth. The image on the left shows that little extra thing that's sitting on top of the phone is our smart remote, which can be attached to your phone directly. And then you can see that you can adjust the settings and parameters of each individual sensor that can be used with smart remote through the same software and through the same device. So having a handheld device is quite a nice trick, because if you remember, code requires that we should be, any calibration of the configuration shall be possible from within that space, and calibration mechanism shall be in a location with ready access. So definitely having a smart remote that you can carry around in your pocket or with your phone, and you can just go to each area and then readjust the light settings as the to meet the code and the convenience of the customer. That definitely complies with the code requirements there. And the other thing that we have addressed in our update is that if you take an example of a US Quattro sensor, we can dim-24, we can adjust the light level, we can set the operating mode to normal, and then say photo control option to be force off. So what force off means is that if the lights exceed the light level from outside and the threshold set by it, it would turn the sensors, it would turn the lights off. So it's not like before that, where you should dim it down to below 20%, and that's good enough. No, now the code says you have to shut them off, shut the lights off. Before going into details of this topic on this slide, enhanced digital lighting controls, I have to give a little background of where this requirement comes from. So the main topic of lighting controls is in section C405 of the code. But in next section, C406, the code is introducing 8 different options to improve the energy efficiency of the code, energy efficiency of the building or the job site. Most of these energy efficiency requirements go back to the HVAC side and those things. The only one that really matters to us is the enhanced digital lighting controls one, which says luminaires shall be configured for continuous dimming. Luminaires shall be addressed individually. Control group of not more than 4 luminaires shall be allowed. So basically, we have to address and control each luminaire individually, and also each group cannot exceed more than 4 fixtures. And also, you cannot have more than 8 luminaires together in a daylight zone. So again, the daylight zone needs to be split up. And then when it comes to the fixtures, being controlled through a digital control system, that system should have the next 4 following functions. Control reconfiguration based on digital addressability, load shedding, individual user control of overhead, general illumination in open offices, and occupancy sensors shall be capable of being reconfigured through the digital control system. A good example of this is a KNX network that you can see on the right-hand side. It's a protocol that has been around for about 20 years now, I think. And it's quite popular outside of North America. And even here it has gained some momentum, and we have just recently sold a significant amount of these sensors to a school project quite close to our office. As you can see, the KNX network, for example, will pretty much meet the requirements of your customers, because you have a network sensor, you have the Dolly gateway to provide you with the luminaire level controls and all that. And also, since KNX is an open protocol, you can mix and match devices without any issues or any hiccups. And KNX is way more than just lighting controls. It's lighting, HVAC, curtains, security. I have quite an extensive experience with this protocol, and I'm hoping that North America also catches up with the rest of the world in this regard and starts using more open protocol devices rather than just sticking to the proprietary protocols. So this is all the important topics and the new topics that are introduced in the IECC 2018, and I'm gonna give the mic back to Casey and let her wrap up, and we can have some questions and answers, some Q&A after all the lines are open.
Okay, so as Poria said, yep, we are going to open up the phones. So if anyone has any question, everyone is unmuted, so feel free to pipe in. It doesn't sound like there are any questions. So with that, thanks very much for attending. Look for an email. Somebody asked if this was going to be available. This presentation will be available. It will be posted online tomorrow, and you all will get an email about that. So look for that. We'll also send around a little short survey so that you can help us develop webinars that you would like to hear about in the future. Thank you, everyone. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.